Hello, welcome to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Season 1 Invitational in Richmond. I am Nick Miller alongside Bob Huang. How are you doing, sir?
Doing all right. How about yourself?
I am great. Now, we had the chance to get a deck tech on you long ago when you broke the Legacy format with Blue Red Delver. We missed that opportunity. You won the tournament. Treasure Cruise has since been banned in Legacy and Modern. So when you have a brew, we're not going to miss you again.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I will just say one thing. It was my friend who brewed up this deck and handed it to me.
Okay.
My friend Zan. He actually ended up top 8ing Miami with his brew as well. So he's a good deck builder, and this is definitely a piece of work.
All right. This is a deck hinging on the card Collected Company from the new set. You've got a aggro shell here, but let's go over the specifics. You have 12 cards at this card, or 16 cards, with 4 different drops that can come in here. You've got Fanatic of Xenagos, Goblin Rabblemaster, Death Mist Raptor, Savage Knuckleblade.
Yep.
How'd you come up with this, or how'd your friend come up with it, and why are you so all about this deck? You're 3-0 so far.
Yeah. So I think when Collected Company was first spoiled, we were like thinking about the ceiling of this card, and the ceiling of this card is very, very high. Like this is standard. You can put 6 mana of like power into play. Like that's jumping the curve. That's like the same as like a turn 1 Elvish Mystic. It's a fantastic play. And so we were trying to like figure out shells for it, or Zan was rather. And he tried it in like straight red-green. He was playing like Boon Satyrs instead, but he felt like he wanted a little bit extra punch. So we decided to splash blue for Savage Knuckleblade.
All right. So you've got your Elvish Mystic, and this deck is probably, of all the decks with Elvish Mystic, one of the most powerful, because you have all these 3 drops you want to be getting into play. And if you're not, you're just going to get a turn 3 company as well.
Yeah, if you get a turn 3 company, I don't know how they win. Just imagine like, a regular turn 3, someone's casting Goblin Rabblemaster, like in red-white, for example. In your turn 3, you might be playing like a Rabblemaster and a Fanatic of Xenagos and not be down a card. Like, that's just insane.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've got Air of the Wild as your lone 2 drop here.
Yep.
Let's talk about all the creatures specifically,
Sure.
You have a ton of options in a deck like this, with a card that's going to put anything with converted mana cost 3 or less into play. Talk about each selection here.
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously Elvish Mystic, as you mentioned earlier, it's for the ramp. I would say if you have an opening hand with either Mystic or Company, you should be set to play like a kind of unfair game of Magic, essentially. And yeah, both cards are great, so that's why they're there. The Air of the Wilds is a curve filler. It's like a 2-drop that attacks through Siege Rhino and is relevant in the late game. So you just play 4 of those. So Fanatic of Xenagos, I really like against basically decks like without Siege Rhino, where he's just like king on the ground. Like he has trample, he goes through tokens. So he's like a really effective card at racing. And oftentimes like people don't want to take 4, so they put the counter on him, and then that just goes on to turn on like Ferocious for Crater's Claws. So he's definitely a solid role player. He's better in some matchups than others, but yeah, he's great. Goblin Rabblemaster, obviously, it's just like the best turn 2 play. If they just don't have an answer right then and there, they could just easily lose. So he's pretty self-explanatory there. Death Mist Raptor is an interesting one. We wanted to have extra death touch creatures with Collected Company, so you could like basically use Collected Company as like a 2-for-1 removal spell. They attack, you cast Collected Company, and then put in like an Air of the Wild to trade with a Siege Rhino or something like that. I played against Mono Red in round 1, and then he swung with like his Zergo, and I was just like, Collected Company, put 2 3-mana dorks, eat your Zergo, and then there was just like no coming back from that for him.
And then the Knuckleblade.
And Knuckleblade is the overall, I guess, it's hard to say more powerful than Rabblemaster, but like he's insane. Like if you have 1 extra mana, you can give him haste off the Collected Company. And he's obviously great against control. He's hard to kill and he hits really hard. So yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, so a Temur deck, but really the only blue card in your main deck is Savage Knuckleblade. You got some other cards in the sideboard we'll talk about here in a moment. But very powerful with all the abilities, so you can even pump it after you play this, things like that.
Sure.
If you have to somehow main phase this, you can still hasty that guy along with the Fanatic as well, right?
Exactly.
Roast card everyone's playing out of Dragons of Tarkir. You got to be able to kill those Siege Rhinos. It's a good curve filler, as you said. Now you've got the Ferocious covered here with Crater's Claw as well. So talk about your removal suite. You only really got Crater's Claw and Roast.
Yep.
Of course, you're hinging on the Death Touch creatures.
Yeah, so yeah, Death Touch creatures, I'd call them like pseudo removal. The removal that we chose was basically just you want to be swinging and swinging. Like if other decks get to the late game with Elspeth, it can be kind of tough to win. So usually the only cards stopping you early are, it's just basically Siege Rhino and maybe Tasigur. And so we just wanted an efficient answer to those cards. Coming into this, I thought the two biggest decks were going to be Red Deck Wins as well as Abzan.
Right.
So it just made sense.
Right, not the only person we've had in the sideboard who said that exact sentiment.
Okay,
you know, fearing
all right,
Mono
cool.
Red and Abzan, and both players playing Air of the Wild and the Deathmist Raptor. So you guys all seem to be on the same page here. You also got a couple Ash Cloud Phoenixes.
Yeah, I love
that
Ash
role
Cloud.
filling?
Like basically as a curve topper, if your regular game plan doesn't work, you know, it's a very resilient threat. It's very hard to kill. Like the only card that deals with it efficiently is Abzan Charm pre-board. And then like Abzan Charm is already good against your deck anyways. Like it kills a bunch of other things. So hopefully they'll have used it by that point.
Have you lived the dream of unmorphing it yet to get back your Raptor?
Yes, once. It was irrelevant because I was, you know, beating him in the air with Ash Cloud Phoenix, but it was sweet nonetheless.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now your mana in this deck, you know, you really want the turn 1 Mystic and you want to be able to play cards on curve here. You got the full 4 mana confluence, correct?
Yes.
And a bunch of pain lands?
Yeah, we play 4 mana confluence and then 8 pain lands in addition to that. You really want to be able to just cast your spells on time. You're an aggro deck. So with this setup, you have plenty of sources of all of the major colors and even of blue, honestly. So your mana is actually great. Like the mana is as good as like a 2-color deck basically.
Okay. Yeah. I mentioned the sideboard earlier. You got some more blue cards, but the big one, we've all wanted to see it, Sarkhan. He is here, unbroken. You got 2 copies.
Okay.
How's this Planeswalker been?
You know, I'm glad you asked me now because literally last round was the first time that I had personally played it. Zan was telling me, you know, it's such an awesome card. It's a little bit clunky pre-board. You don't want it against something like Red Deck Wins.
Right.
So he decided to put it in the board. And last round it was absolutely insane. I went turn 4 Sarkhan off Elvish Mystic, make a dragon, untap, draw a card, draw a Rabble Master, play the Rabble Master. Next turn, make another dragon. Like it was insane, 3 for 1. Yeah. And like this deck generally like starts out ahead and they need to spend their turns killing your creatures anyways.
Right.
And if you're putting 2 of them into play, they don't have the mana to be like playing a creature to pressure Sarkhan.
Right.
The card is awesome.
Really looks like it snowballs once you get start going. They don't have the removal spells and the mana to be able to play things to pressure your Planeswalker or kill your 2 creatures at once.
Yeah, the other thing I like about this deck is I think it actually has a great Red Deck Wins matchup. Like if you draw a Collected Company, like their creatures aren't doing any damage, so they pretty much need to burn you out. And your creatures are like, they hit really hard, so it closes out games before they can burn you out.
Talk about this. You got 2 Mob Rule here in your sideboard. This is a card that people complaining about in Limited.
Really?
You're bringing it over here to the standard portion.
Yeah, I am, I'll say I'm skeptical about this card. As Ann was showing me, like this is your best bet for beating the Green Devotion decks as well as the Whip decks, because those decks really just, they try to clog the board so your guys don't get through. And then you're like actually okay with that if you have Mob Rule in your hand. You're just like, okay, keep playing stuff. I'll take it now. Swing, you're dead. So you said it's been good. You can play it with like an Elvish Mystic and it untaps the Elvish Mystic too. So it's like, yeah.
All right. I like the functionality. That's nice. You got a couple Magma Sprays. You got Anger of the Gods. Just some removal. Now here's the card I like. Collected Company into Hornet's Nest.
Yeah, that's like also a very fun ambush card. I'm trying to think. I'm not sure if I've done that specific one yet, but Hornet's Nest's been really good. It's really in for basically the red matchups, because basically the stuff on the ground, they can't really attack with it anymore. And you know, you can do silly things like roast it or like instant speed. I bring it in against Jeskai because Mantis Riders are problems. So I like bring in a Hornet's Nest and then he attacks, and then I like Magma Spray the Hornet's Nest and make Death Touch Flyers to kill the Mantis Rider.
I like it.
So yeah, it's surprisingly versatile and it's just really good against the red decks.
Stubborn Denial is a counterspell and a couple Reclamation Sages. Yeah. Just great utility cards. The 3-0. Any questionable cards? Any things you might want to kind of get into the deck that you haven't tried yet, or anything underperforming or overperforming?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like Collected Company is awesome. Just like start casting that card and you'll see. As far as like different card choices, we definitely picked our 3 drops on the basis of, again, like hits hard or like attacks through Siege Rhino basically. There are the options. Yeah, one thing I'd like to mention is Reclamation Sage can come in at instant speed, so you could hit a chain to the rocks, and that could end up being pretty huge. I don't know. This deck, honestly, it's very new. We've just started testing it, and it had great results. I think in testing, the one bad matchup was tokens, because they can make like lots of blockers early and make their guys trade with your guys. So that was the one bad matchup that we found. But against red deck wins, we were really positive. Against Abzen, we were positive. So yeah, I'm like super excited.
Well, the deck is good. You're 3-0, trying to 4-0 the fourth standard person coming up.
Yeah.
Thanks for sitting down with me on the sideboard. Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Richmond.